Could have been real. You guys did a discussion for the My Hero ending, and I didn't see any of it, but I saw that got a lot of people talking about something. And I haven't seen anything on Twitter. I have not looked at anything because I didn't want to be spoilerinoed. I don't know what the discussion is. Has anybody seen what's the room temp?
There's Twitter people who are always mad about everything, so
yeah,
it's hard for me to personally gauge.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, all I saw was on Twitter, but I know I saw someone, they mentioned My Hero. They're like, My Hero's ending was bad. Jujutsu Kaisen's ending was super bad. Attack on Titan's ending fucking sucked. No one knows how to end mangas or something.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It was a lot of discussion up till this last chapter I saw.
Yeah. It seemed like coming up to it, it was incredibly hyped. Every time it was about to be leaked or whatever, like it was almost at the top of trending, at least from the stuff that I saw. Way up there.
People were always getting hyped to talk about it.
But now that it's over, I just feel like I'm hearing nothing about it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people didn't like the end, and they just feel very, like, let down. So they're just like, whatever. Like, I'm just stepping away.
It's also kind of just like the idea that as long as there's like a mystery open, as long as there's something unknown, a series will continue like living and thriving based on those kinds of discussions. Whereas a hard ending really just puts a stopper on all of them. It's like, yeah, you can talk about it, but it's a dead series at this point. It's not relevant anymore the hour after the chapter has come out.
They need more FNAF lore is what you're saying. We need like a Gaster character who only shows up in like one panel every 10 pages.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be the reason why there hasn't been much discussion on it. But talking briefly about endings in general real quick, I did want to just mention my roommate John Mercury Falcon said he saw it in his Twitter feed, and I wish I knew who said it, that they had like they had read so much of Shonen Jump, and they said that only like 3 series that they know of had actually a genuinely satisfying ending, which was very interesting to me because it shows how like series based on this weekly format kind of aren't really meant to end very strongly. Like they're not to end with like a bang like you would get with a nice movie or a series, that's like intentionally meant to end after 6 episodes or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that you are just winging it. You have a concept and you pitch the concept and you maybe have a couple beats to get you through like maybe a year. Even that's like kind of far for some of them. There might only be like 20 chapters they have an outline for. And then it's like, and then we ball after that. I love Toriyama, Notorious Pantser, like fucking changing shit up the week before shit had to go out, like all the time.
Yeah, isn't it the week before Dragon Ball ended? He made a note saying like something's coming up next week. I hope you don't get too hyped for it though, or something.
Yes,
it's just like downplaying it.
It's like,
and then it's just like, oh, that was the end.
Yeah, the ending. That is the surprise. And even that's another like a good example too. I think Dragon Ball's ending is honestly pretty weak. Like I'm not that big a fan of it. It just kind of happens because it had to, and he was burnt the fuck out. Just eventually the steam runs out. You can constantly make up conflicts forever. Hello, Super. So to like kind of contrast all that you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Gege say like, I think I'll be able to end it the way I planned or whatever? Wasn't
Did
that
he say
sad?
that? I thought I heard that.
No, the thing he said was like it's exciting to write an ending or something. Like he's never written an ending before.
I
so it's
swear
like,
I swear
that's
to
what
God,
I thought he said.
I saw something floating around of just like, there was the one quote from the, oh God, I really should have like sources ready for all this shit. You want to break the chapter down first? We could just like, we don't have to
let's break
talk
it down
a ton
and then,
about it.
Well, let's hold off on our opinions for the actual ending.
Now that we've set the stage for it, because like I think this is a big fucking deal. My Hero's done.
Yeah.
This was the other one. This like, am I missing something? This is the other one, right?
Yeah, this is like the biggest anime of the modern like battle shonen.
The only other thing I can
age.
think of is Demon Slayer, and that's been over for a bit.
And that's been done. Yeah. When we last left at 270, they were like, oh, there's this somebody that we think is either a could be a cursed spirit, it could be a remnant from the Culling game, just somebody is using a little wacky technique to mess with this one girl. Kind of like harkening back to the initial stuff when they first got together, which is kind of cute. This seems very, you mentioned Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, going back to the old spirit detective type stories. Yeah, it's kind of what I predicted. They're just having one last little adventure to just kind of like keep the initial gang together and show them in their dynamic once more at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing to worry about. They're still hanging out.
And then we get Nobara in action for after so long, it does still feel pretty good, I'm going to say, being on the right side of history.
Nice to see her on the front line again.
This little bit was fun. Like, this is...
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that.
I like them seeing their silly little faces
they get
here.
their own goofy transformations.
And then we got Fushiguro having to clean up the mess because they're goofing off. And then they find out that this guy is jealous because he bought this bag for this girl.
Yeah, she was working at like some sort of like what do they call it in Japan? Like they just called it
a
like
hostess club.
Yeah, hostess club.
A cabaret club, they say.
Yeah. So he's just like simping for her and buying her stuff.
Basically, yeah.
He was her pay pig.
And then that was about it. Okay, halfway through the chapter, we wrapped up that, and then I just want to give you my live play-by-play.
Where were you at this point?
My heart's racing. I'm panicking. I'm like, oh god, it's Gojover. It's never been more Gojover than now. And I'm like, okay, maybe like something will happen. Somebody made this giant, I'm talking massive, multi-page, took me about 20 minutes to read, dream theory on Tumblr that the last 5 chapters have been a dream. Because
like this has all been part of his domain or something.
Yes, that's all Yuji's domain. This is the only way that all the inconsistencies make sense. Is they were huffing the copium so hard, saying that this is a dream. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, yeah, we're gonna end this little thing, and then Yuji's domain's gonna fall, and he's gonna be like, it would be fun if we could be normal again. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the whole time that's going to happen.
I wish this could have been how things turned out.
That's genuinely what I thought was going to happen. Because I'm still waiting for him to die surrounded by friends. Like he said. Anyways, so we get a flashback to Gojo. Which
because
I guess
there's no way he could appear in the present.
I isolated that panel. I love the panel of like Gojo doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like boom, eat it, suckers.
Make that the thumbnail.
Straight from the Gojo's mouth.
This is like literally going from this. So I was like, okay, this looks like we're wrapping up stuff. Do that. I'm just like, I'm just going to die. I'm dead in real life. And we get the fucking flashback here to like, it's a nice, I will say, for as sad as I am, this is a nice bookend to what Gojo said in the beginning with like, I could take over the world, but that's stupid. I think I'd rather like raise people up with like my ideals to kind of like help me like make the world what I think would be a better place. And I think that's cool. That's always part of his character. We're seeing that like, hey, my time is going to be done and I want you to carry it on. This was the passing of the torch moment that we never really got before now, which is nice. Like this is, if we had to have anything at all, it could have been worse. So you know what? I'll take it. I'll take my lumps. It's fine. So then we get him going, I'm counting on you, Yuji, to do all that. And then we get here the I'm counting on you, new guy. And that's like,
go ahead and make people look goofy within a 500-yard range to save us somehow.
Very useful.
Look, maybe we don't know the extent of his power. Maybe this is just where it begins. You know, he hasn't really honed it.
He's a Toon Force user. He can amplify anything to gag space.
Ooh, okay.
Sukuna right here, we get a little flashback thingy, or flash sideways to a passageway for the circulation of souls. We saw this briefly with Hanami dying, I think. Was it Hanami's death or was it Dagon's? It was one of those that we saw them like joining the rest of them in like some weird little purgatory thing, which could have been just a neat little visual. I was happy to see this. And then
it was good to see them again.
The kind of trying to wrap up as much as they can. I think your life was about revenge against everyone who scorned you as an abomination. Like, it amounts to the same thing. That is my nature and no other way.
That's basically what I was doing. Maybe not my intent.
And then goes, no, I guess I could have chosen how to live. And like, I had 2 chances. Can someone tell me what this means?
I didn't know if these are people I would have been happy to have just lived with. Like, I don't know who
because this is the one.
Is.
This is the girl who loved him that took over Fushigoro's sister's body, I think.
Okay, then that kind of backs up what I thought he was saying here, which is basically like, I didn't have to be alone. There were people who loved me.
Yeah.
And I chose to reject them.
Yes, that's what I
chose my destructive path over that.
The visual imagery implies that they are the 2 paths that he could have taken. Like the nasty woman who was always like killing people and stuff like that. And then the one white-haired girl who I hardly remember at all. Sukuna's like assistant of some sort. Like she was She was always helping him out.
Because then we see this here.
Okay, yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this as like no, there were 2 like chances in my life to alter course, and I took none of them. I just doubled down on everything because of these 2 people that I knew. Like, they could have pulled me out of it.
The only thing that makes me think that's not the case is he had 3 chances because of Yuji.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing that makes me think that might not be what he's saying. But then
Yeah.
I don't know how else to interpret this, though, if that's not what he's saying.
Yeah. And I like him saying here that if there is a next time, maybe I'll change how I live, because we know the curses can get that reincarnation shit. And Mahito being pissed off about it, like, what the fuck? I love this, like, just flailing about in the afterlife void, like, all pissed off that Sukuna did have some level of turnabout, which I feel like if there was some distinct moment of here's what I see as the ending for this character, I can see this being the envisioned ending. I feel like this was planned, like this idea from the get-go. So I would believe that. And then,
I do kind of wish that we got more, like, I like this ending for Mahito, but I feel like it's kind of played too silly, and I wish it was more just, I want to see this character who is basically our one pure, irredeemable evil, I don't know, be more despairing at the end, but I guess it's just fun and goofy.
He had that moment before he got sucked up. Like,
fair enough.
I get what you're saying, though.
It just feels like slightly undercut to me, but it is also like, this is how he'd react. He was an immature, like, childlike character.
He's a petulant child, and that's all he'll ever be.
Yeah. And then, Shadno pointing out that Mahito gets the last line of dialogue in the entire series, because after this, we get, bam, here's a little worse for wear, but everybody's kicking.
Here's how everybody is.
They're chilling. Everybody's chilling. And out there in the woods somewhere is a middle finger to you, audience.
One big middle finger at you.
Going, fuck you. It's Gojo over. And with that, that's it. We're done.
That's it. That's the end. No part 2.
This is the end of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Tyler, where's the...
Oh, here, let me pull it up.
The fake leaks.
Yeah, because there were a couple good fake leaks. So here's this one, and I'm sitting here going like, man, if only.
Yeah, this would have been a great final page.
Hang on, let me fucking open the image. No, the scaling's good. Takaba, Kajaku, and Gojo grabbing the last panel and going, just kidding, part 2 coming soon. See, this is every page flip. It could have happened. It could have been real.
That's the ending we really needed.
It could have been there. Could have been real.
We've gone through the whole chapter now. What is our thoughts, just individually, of overall the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen?
I'm very middling on it, personally. Like, I don't think it's, like, awful. I'm okay with, like, having a, like, hey, our gang is all here. Like, as much as I think Gojo is cool, I'm fine with him not coming back. Like, I think that's, like, I'm cool with a mentor passing the torch type thing. But it just feels very, like, and then it ended. It's not, like, like, it's not good either. It's just very, like, and then the last fight was done, and then they were done. You had your whole, like, cool climax planned out, your exciting finale to a fight, and then you were like, and then after that, it's just kind of over, right? Like, I guess I can dedicate a chapter to how other ways that fight could have ended, couldn't have happened. But ultimately, the end of the fight was really all I wanted, and then I wanted, like, an ending of, like, and they got to have adventures, but I don't know, we're nicer to the cursed people or spirits we find, I guess. Like,
yeah, like, nothing has changed about the world. Nothing is different.
Like,
yeah, like,
well, I mean, the head families or whatever are all gone, basically. So it's like, it's in the new generation's hands to lead sorcerers now, essentially.
But they never even felt like a thing anyway. They were never developed.
All that stuff was always background, so it didn't feel important. Ultimately, the story we're following does not feel like it got, like, a big shift or whatever.
This is just a thing about, like, writing stuff in general. Like, you can, as a writer, are a fucking god. You can say things that happen, and you can go, yeah, the entire structure of the world changed. But as a reader, if none of it is felt through the impact of the people that you are seeing it through, then none of it, like, is relevant to the people. Like, why do I care? And so much of this ending was just, and thing happened. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Why do I care?
So that's your overall take of it too, is just like, it kind of just happened?
I think things just happened because they say they happened, but I don't feel like almost any emotional thing was resolved at all. I feel like there was very little touched on with Fushiguro. I feel like we're just gonna pretend that none of this shit happened and everything's hunky-dory, when I feel like the ending to the Shibuya stuff was far more impactful. Like with Yuji, like having that moment of like, I'm a fucking monster and stuff. Like we got Yuji's domain and we got the cool flashback, and like, I don't need to know his powers. I don't fucking care. I'm not one of those guys that complains about this. I wanted to see the characters like talking about how they feel about like what's happened and stuff. And we get a couple letters from Gojo and we get a couple little things, and it's not that there aren't cute character moments and stuff, but we're just pretending like this fucking atom bomb didn't go off. Like, what? I feel like there should have been some falling action there. Like, there was no denouement that, like, stories usually have. It was just, let's talk about other ways this fight could have gone. And I feel like that should have been my big, like, inkling that a lot of this, the rest of this was going to follow in that same format, that, like, it feels like the characters are secondary to telling things about the world. Like,
giving you stats and fights to bet
on. To give me stats and like articles in an encyclopedia entry. I can read how mechanics work in a fucking guidebook. That doesn't mean it's cool. You can read, wow, Everest is the tallest mountain in the world, but you don't understand what that means until you fucking go there. And the characters don't go anywhere. They aren't doing anything. They're just going, I could have done XYZ, but I couldn't do XYZ. Like, I want to see them cry. I want to see them hug. There was none of that. Like, what the fuck? Like, do I sound crazy?
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I was kind of holding back my own opinions there because I've got some interesting takes I want to do. But what about you, Tyler? Because I'll save mine for last.
Ben's building himself a runway, so if you have anything to say.
I'm kind of disappointed. Like, they just kind of tackle the normal, like, oh, there was a curse user thing over here for the last thing. I feel like after they did the whole, hey, announcement of curses are a thing that exists in the world, or at least here in Japan, and there are curse users, I was hoping that we'd get more of them dealing with curses in the public. As more like public, like not a public servant, but something like a task force or whatever. They
seeing the world change.
Yes, exactly. Like we talked about like them mentioning like, hey, we want to get rid of the hero ranking system in My Hero, and then nothing happens with that. I feel like the same thing kind of happens here, where it's just like they say, hey, we made it public, that we don't see the world change around that
clandestine.
Outside of the one of maybe 2 pages of people going, damn, curses are a thing. But, like, outside of that, it was nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was hoping for some of that here if we were going to have them go out into the world outside of the big fight.
It would have been cooler to see this last... Like, I was on board with this because I was, like, wondering, are we going to see, like, has this aspect changed now? Like, no, it's just kind of the same. Like, which is fine, I guess, but, like, it feels like the world is just... Nothing happened. It feels like nothing was accomplished, nothing changed. There's still another fucking finger, so what?
But it's better out there, blah, blah.
Yeah. It's little and harmless now. Don't worry about it. Fine.
Yeah.
Also, like, Sukuna maybe's chilled out now that he's down to one
finger. True, Sukuna might have chilled out now that he's missing his middle finger.
Yeah, that's where all of his evil was stored.
Importantly, too, just I know I'm talking all about character stuff. Tyler's saying, like, oh, I wish the world was different. A lot of those are descriptive of the like hero's journey shit, like go like as an ending, like go back to where you started, go back to like a home point, and then show how the characters have changed, establish the new norm and all that type of shit. And we're not seeing the new norm. I want the old norm. I want normal beer. And then but I do think that like you don't have to do that every time, but I just wish the characters did fucking anything. So I don't know. All right, Ben, everybody's paved the way for you. Go ahead and finish it.
All right. This ending was pretty much perfect for Jujutsu Kaisen.
Whoa.
Yes, I know what he's going to say. All right, go.
I'm not going to be vitriolic about it.
But in that it did nothing and it sucked. All right, go ahead.
Well, kind of. This story very clearly did not do much about like making us feel endeared to a world. It made us feel endeared to a power system.
Yeah.
This story did not make us really connect with the characters and their relationships to one another. That was one of the big flaws that we all kind of agreed on was an issue in season 1. And so the connections between the characters are pleasant and they're nice for the characters. And that's the kind of ending that would best fit them, is that they're just having a good time together. The world itself, we've gotten some information about the clans, and that's all just the tell don't show. Seeing how the world of these curses changes, we're not going to feel that. It doesn't really work. In general, it just feels like there's just not enough substance that needs to be resolved emotionally for there to be some cool resolution. And the reason we kept snapping onto this idea of Yuji needs to die next to the people he loves is just because that's the theme that was presented to us in the very beginning. But we can easily assume that from the contents of this chapter. He's got friends now. He's got people who will care about him when he dies. So he's succeeded in that as well.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't feel big and it doesn't feel conclusive and important. I feel it didn't have enough setup. It lacks any kind of real substance when it comes to just a catharsis. In that scale, in that sense, it's a very small scaled kind of story just about Yuji coming to terms with accepting himself. And the story fittingly starts when he gains Sukuna and ends when he accepts him and learns how to love him. You know, the whole metaphor for loving this nasty part of that's inside you.
Yeah.
Okay, all that really mattered in the end was Yuji, and there's very little character development that needs a catharsis like Yuji throughout the rest of the story. So really the fact that Yuji's story ends immediately as soon as Sukuna is gone from him, there's really nothing else you can do. So I think the story, despite the ending, despite being lacking as a whole, is just because the Jujutsu Kaisen world kind of bloated beyond what the story could tell. And the ending is just suitable for what the story of Jujutsu Kaisen actually ended up being.
I get what you're saying completely with that. I feel like the thing that gets me the most about it is I deeply subscribe to Brandon Sanderson, great author. He has all of his lectures available for free on YouTube. Gege, you could watch them. His big thing is every story is made of promises and payoffs. Everything is just you promise a thing and then you pay it off and you just ripple those between things. So you have a big promise and then you pay it off later. And then in between those, you have little promises and then those get wrapped up nicely. That's like what a story arc looks like. And it feels like there were a lot of promises about things set up, like, because we have the things with like the world, like the Jujutsu Kaisen as a school sucks. Here's this power system. Here's how it works. I promise you this is how it works. I promise you this is how the world works. I promise you this is how these cursed spirits operate. Like, he promised so much about the world and paid it off. But I don't fucking care. I care about the character promises. And I feel like those were not fulfilled.
I feel like he didn't really promise too much. Like, and
he should have died surrounded by friends.
It'd be cool if this happened rather than a promise. That I get that kind of sense from it.
I think I'm fine with he should have died around friends. Like, I think I kind of agree with Ben, where it's like we don't necessarily need to see that. Seeing him having these friends that are sticking with him after all of this, like, kind of implies that that's probably how that's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like kind of an okay thing. But I do agree with you that it feels like there's just a lot kind of left on the table, or it was never there and it felt like it was going to be at some point.
My take is that it was never there. Even with the character stuff, I don't feel like the relationships are strong enough to need an ending. So it's just, I'm putting that in the best way I can, because honestly, I just don't think it's a good thing. I don't think that story did well enough to justify itself.
No, I completely agree with you. I think I'm just so frustrated because this is the first big shonen thing I have gotten into since Naruto. And this is like coming into going, well, yeah, once Naruto loses Kurama, he's a useless person. And I'm like, what the fuck? But like, you're right, because Yuji's nothing. And so it feels like throughout this whole time, like, Yuji is not a person. You know who is a person? Fucking Gojo. Fucking Geto.
And we killed
him. And so I'm like...
And he got a satisfying ending.
And we put him on a
quite
cross.
a while ago.
Yeah, and like he did get his whole thing, which is like fine, but like it just feels like after all of this, like this had so much potential. There was so much potential on the table, Ben, when you do your domain and you're like, now Yuji's gonna be a fucking character. And there was so much room. And just hearing, oh yeah, and then it ends in 5 chapters. Like that was the worst mistake I think this ever made. Like just when it was getting possible for Yuji to become somebody, it fucking ends.
Oh yeah, I totally agree, and that's the fault of like I don't think when I say I don't think this made any promises, I would say he left a lot of potential sitting on the ground, and everyone just assumed he's going to make use of that. He's got to.
He wouldn't make this potential if he wasn't planning to use it.
That's what I was thinking. Because why would you? I do think you're right that like in retrospect, I do feel like a lot of the character moments honestly aren't that big. And I feel like a lot of them were injected through like Tyler mentioned to me, because I was trying to speed to it to get caught up and stuff. The anime has infinitely more fun character moments that actually make them real as these like end caps to episodes and stuff. These little omake things that would be like usually 4 type thingies. Like I just assumed those were in the manga. And apparently they're just anime original things because anime people know how to market shit and what people want. And they want fucking characters having fun. So it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right that I don't think it was there from the beginning. But dog, with the pieces were on the table. It could have been there.
So when I say I maybe it's because my expectations were kind of low because I saw what this story was. And that's kind of my opinion on it hasn't really changed. It's flawed. It has some good moments, but the character really wasn't there for it. So when I saw this ending, I was like, I think I like that a little bit better than My Hero ending because it fits. That's just what the story always was.
It is, honest. Like you're right, and I hate that you're right because I believed in the manga it could be. Damn it! The whole way through, I was like, no, I'm huffing the hopium every fucking day. I knew it could be good. I know I was memeing about a lot of Gojo shit, but realistically, all I wanted was more character stuff, and I feel like at the end of it, that got the shaft to placate who. Do you want to talk about this power system for fucking 10 more pages and talk about the Shadow School? I don't fucking give a shit.
Someone in the Twitch chat earlier said like, you'll die surrounded by your friends thing. No one gave a funeral for Gojo. They just talked about how the fight could have gone different. It's just like, look, fuck.
Yeah, it's like nothing in this world, like in this world, in like Gege's mind, like nothing in this world is as cool as telling you about how fucking neat a fight could have gone. And I'm like, really? You think so little of your like characters and shit that you're not going to devote that time to it? Like, I do have to wonder, who was this, an editor? Like, I'm sitting here wondering what went wrong. How could this have happened? Like, this just seems like you had all the makings of something really genuinely impactful by the end. And then, like, I know Gege had to take a couple breaks and stuff. There was that brief stint, like, after the Gojo shit where there was like only 6 pages because My Hero was ending and they're probably like, dog, we gotta fucking something, please, anything you can shit out, we'll take it. But maybe they're just stressed out by the grind, man. Fuck it, you know. I get it. I'm not gonna hold that against you, but like as a writer making a work of art, I'm like, did you accomplish what you wanted to? Because I just feel like your goals were drastically appealing someone that it doesn't exist. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
They might be just trying to get out of it to make their next thing, because at least on the TCB one, it says, thank you so much for reading the past 6 years. Please look forward to Gege's next work.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't see that. Fuck.
Yeah, that's right. That's like the author commentary note.
Yu Yu Hakusho thing.
Okay, sure.
It very well could be. I mean, that's kind of how a lot of manga are destined to end in Shonen Jump. It's just like, can't do it anymore. Got to stop it somewhere.
Yeah.
So, as someone who also does writing stuff myself, I feel like this is a very understandable mistake for Gege to fall into. Like, it's it can happen to the best, and I think it's just the idea that Gege had these characters set in stone and knew what was important about them, and just couldn't convey that to the page properly. He balanced some things wrong. And especially with the manga grind set, it can get a bit muddy. You kind of lose track of what the overall perspective of what have I told the audience versus what's in my brain. This brain that is always melding ideas together, who always has these clear idea of what the characters are and how they would interact with everything at any given moment. And then whatever you put on the page is final. And sometimes that's 10% of the process of creating the story.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it feels like such a small part of it. Sometimes you can't keep track of what did the audience perceive this as?
Yeah, you can't control audience perception. You can control what you put in there and like what you hope they glom onto. But when your third to last chapter is here's how our battle sim could have gone differently, it does feel like you have shown your hand to what you consider to be important. And I don't know.
It definitely did prioritize cool battle systems over the majority of everything else. He probably was the type of person who didn't get into making manga because he was like, oh, I love that point where I cried about this.
This character pathos is what it's all
about.
Make
a fucking game, bro. That's what you wanted to do the whole time. Make a fucking game.
No, this dude read JoJo and loved crazy stand powers and was like, I'm just going to do that.
Yeah. It's just, because of this is one thing, like, I think as a final note, the one thing that, at least that I have to say about it, this and Kagurabachi, I know we've talked a lot about, like, just speed running through shit. You've seen enough shit. You understand the gist of, like, how these beats go. We're just gonna, get to the action, the cool part. And it feels like that in that pace, you have lost some character moments that really could have done a lot of legwork to make this ending stick the landing and wrap up a lot of loose threads that I felt like laid about. Not that everything needs to get answered. I'm not a fucking lore monster that needs every fucking question answered. I just would like characters to feel something at the end instead of talk about what question they guessed on the SAT. I think the trend towards speeding things up like this, if we're going to see a future of manga that's going to be shorter and shit like this, I hope they don't skimp out on the fucking character developments, man, because it feels like you can only sell pilots with new things by like concepts and hooks. Like you sell them on, isn't this concept interesting? I'm like, yeah, that concept is interesting and that keeps me going, but I'm always at the end of the day just there because I like the people that are doing it. But you can't just say, hey, this is my friend Tim. Why don't you two hang out? I need to know why I should hang out with Tim. You got to give me a reason. But then I come to find out, oh, I love this guy. And so you always need a good hook. And it feels like that hook was always here, but there was just not as much in this under that surface, and I'm just kind of sad because it was there so many times. It felt like it was there.
Yeah, and not only that, it makes me feel better about the artist as well, because it's just like they had these clear flaws, and yet they still persisted and they still pushed forward and they still did their best to overcome those to make a good story that people would want to read week to week, that people would get excited about and think there's so much potential to it. Even
for people
that takes a lot of talent in and of itself.
Absolutely. I'm far from saying Gege is an untalented hack. Like, no way.
Yeah, no, but it just makes me appreciate that a lot more just by knowing that he has those flaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luckily, I'm a sophisticated adult, and I know that the value of a story is all in its at least like last 2 or 3 chapters. So if I've learned anything, it's that Gege knows nothing, and all of Jujutsu Kaisen is bad because these last couple chapters were disappointing.
Yeah,
that's obviously
Yuji
what
had
this
no
means.
goal. It's bad. He didn't want to become Hokage. He didn't want to go after the One Piece.
No, he just wanted to die.
He didn't want to get his dad's revenge.
All right, so I guess we can all retroactively change from ready to not for
yeah,
Jujutsu
I'm going
Kaisen.
to unread this manga. I'm going to read it backwards.
If I read it backwards, maybe I can forget what love felt like. Sorry, Gojo. Yeah. You're Ojog now.
All right, but before we go, let's just say we're probably going to make one more video, just like kind of recapping our thoughts on a whole as Jujutsu Kaisen. But thanks for sticking with us through this, and we will try to find another series to replace it.
Stick around and watch what we replace Jujutsu Kaisen with. It could be one of anything, maybe.
Ooh.
Good times. Zone.